It's been a tough week in the life of an Arsenal fan, losing 3-0 to Crystal Palace, followed by another 2-1 defeat to Brighton. Just like that, Arsenal's top 4 hopes have been severely dented. But what matters now is what's next for Arsenal. So let's discuss how Mikel Arteta needs to respond. Also, what's Fabrizio Romano said about Darwin Nunez, and have Arsenal made a loan offer for Real Madrid's Eden Hazard. Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Babs14 and welcome back to your boys channel. It has been painful over the past few days as an Arsenal fan. I couldn't even make a 5 things you learnt after the game on Saturday. That's how bad it was for me. So anyways, we're back again with the latest content, so smash a like if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are so close to 80k. Arsenal have given me nothing but depression over the past few days, so lads, please cheer me up, subscribe and let's keep it moving. And starting off, let's talk Arsenal's top 4 hopes. Transfers, signings, Arsenal news, we all love that type of stuff, but right now there's a bigger concern, and that is Champions League footy. I'm sure you guys are already aware we played a game at the Emirates on Saturday. It was a 3 PM kickoff that Arsenal were heavy favourites and needed to win. It was against Graham Potter's Brighton, Hove and Albion, and Arsenal lost 2-1. In the first half it was atrocious. I would say it was almost Arsenal's worst game at the Emirates in terms of that lack of ball progression, and it almost felt like the Arsenal players and the Arsenal attackers were hiding in so many occasions. Emile Smith-Rowe and Martin Odegaard were very technically insecure, and despite starting the 4 of Gabriel Martinelli, Saka, Smith-Rowe and Odegaard, Arsenal had no attacking threat in that first half whatsoever. But even defensively, the goal that Brighton scored, how open were Arsenal, the amount of space that Trossard was afforded, that was so unlike the Arsenal that we have seen under Mikel Arteta. Let's also give a mention to VAR as well. I mean, that goal they ruled up for Arsenal just on the stroke of half-time, we basically equalised, and Gabriel Martinelli was apparently a toenail offside. Was there actually any evidence showing that Martinelli was conclusively offside? No, there wasn't. But we can't blame the referees here. Arsenal in that first half simply weren't good enough. And one of the main issues we had, of course, was Mikel Arteta not starting Nuno Tavares and playing Granit Xhaka, one of our only remaining experienced central midfielders, in the left back position. And the issue that gave to Arsenal was in that first half, when Xhaka got the ball, the Arsenal midfielder, in particular Albert Sambi-Lokonga, was left all alone. But for me, when you've got a natural left back like Nuno Tavares, who wasn't at his best against Crystal Palace, he is still your most natural left back. And when you've just lost your most experienced player like Thomas Partey, you have to give young Sambi the support, go back to the 4-2-3-1 and put Xhaka alongside Albert Sambi-Lokonga and not in that left back position. To put it very simply, this for me was a game where Arsenal lost tactically down to Mikel Arteta. Despite actually having a proper left back, he overthought the situation out, and instead of just taking the hit on the left back position, he disrupted another integral part of his team in Granit Xhaka, moving the midfield apart and essentially ruined Arsenal's entire team dynamics. And the funniest thing was, in that second half, when Arteta did that and Xhaka moved into midfield, Arsenal instantly gained more control, made far better chances, and actually ended the game with far higher XG as well, as this shows Arsenal's XG was 2.27 to Brighton's 0.74. Nicola Pepe, Eddie Nketiah and other players all had enough chances to win Arsenal this game. 3-0 to Crystal Palace was embarrassing. This game at the Emirates was a bigger shock to a lot of Arsenal fans. Tottenham won their game 4-0 against Aston Villa. They've been scoring goals for fun. They've got Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Antonio Conte. A lot of Arsenal fans are now echoing the same thing, that Champions League hopes are completely over. And looking at the Premier League table, it's not positive. Despite still having that game in hand, which is Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, Arsenal are now 3 points behind Spurs, down there in 5th place. With them guys winning 4-0, on paper it looks like a comfortable win, that Spurs were on fire. But as the XG shows, Aston Villa caused Spurs a lot of issues, with a 1.66 XG to Spurs' 0.88. To put it very simply, I'm not going to say Spurs were lucky. Spurs were just ultra clinical. And in Heung-min Son and Harry Kane, what they have is what Arsenal lacked the most: a pair of decisive attackers that when they get half a chance, these men are putting the ball into the back of the net. And the stats can actually back this up as well, with Arsenal's expected goals since the defeat to Man City 19.2, but in terms of actual goals, we've only scored 12. A massive underperformance in terms of the expected goals when you have them Tottenham Hotspur scoring goals from nothing. This is the issue for Arsenal, and the biggest example of that is Alexandre Lacazette. And it's now been 1,190 minutes since he last scored an open play goal for Arsenal Football Club. comparing that to the famous goal drought of Olivier Giroud back in 2015-16. Even that massive goal drought was only 838 minutes. Alexandre Lacazette right now is playing atrocious, and it's not just the fact that he's not scoring goals, he's not getting assists, his hold-up play has also left him deserted. Arsenal's lack of a proper central outlet has been exposed massively. Funny enough, in those two games, in the short cameos that we have seen from Mr. Eddie Nketiah, he has shown up Alexandre Lacazette for a striker that at least has the desire to make moves in behind, that provides Arsenal an outlet, and even when it comes to ball to feet play, he's a lot more technically secure. Now, I'm not saying start Eddie Nketiah, but what I am saying for Mikel Arteta, despite Alexandre Lacazette being the current Arsenal club captain, despite him being one of our most experienced players in a very young Arsenal team, Mikel Arteta now needs to make a decision, and with the way Lacazette's playing, for me it's pretty clear and obvious, Mikel Arteta needs to drop Alexandre Lacazette in the upcoming games. And the reason why it's so important for Arsenal is in this top 4 race, let me make this clear right now, despite Spurs now being the favourites, this race is still far from over. The point gap is only 3, and yes, Arsenal have that hard game in hand, but it's still a game in hand that Arsenal still technically could win. Without Thomas Partey, Kieran Toney and Takehiro Tomiyasu, Mikel Arteta needs to show us Arsenal fans what he's really made of. And here are Arsenal's remaining fixtures. You've got Southampton away next, then Chelsea away, Manchester United at home, West Ham away, Leeds at home, Tottenham away, Newcastle away, and on the final day it's Everton at home. But now that Arsenal have lost their last 2 games in Palace and Brighton, these next 2 games like Chelsea away and United at home are simply must win. I still believe this race is far from over and there will be twists and turns to come. And so now for Mikel Arteta, he needs to adapt, whether it's playing Gabriel Martinelli in a central position, Smith Rowe as a false 9, Eddie Nketiah, playing Nuno Tavares. So essentially what I'm saying to you guys is I understand the frustrations, I understand the panic at this moment, but at the same time to completely and utterly write off the top 4 race with 8 games still to play for and so many points still there. I'm not trying to give you guys any sort of false hope, but factually speaking, Arsenal are still in this top 4 race and things can still turn around. But now it is over to the Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta to make the right selections, drop the right players, adapt his tactics in the right way. And if Arsenal, and fingers crossed, praying to the Almighty, if Partey and Tomiyasu can return in due time, then hopefully Arsenal can get these massive results. Then hopefully Arsenal can somehow turn it around and bring back the hope of Champions League footy to the Emirates Stadium. But at this moment, my friends, what do you guys make of that performance? But at this moment, what do you guys thinking as Arsenal fans? 2 back-to-back defeats. They were damning, they were hard, they were painful. What do you guys make of Arsenal's Champions League places? Do you think Spurs have now taken it over? Or do you still think deep down as an Arsenal fan, there is still hope and the chances are still there? Moving on to the latest Arsenal transfer news. Now that we discussed the current depression around Arsenal Football Club, let's move on to something positive, something more optimistic, what the future holds for Arsenal and who are we looking to sign. And starting off with Benfica's Darwin Nunez, as Darwin Nunez has confirmed via an official statement that he is going to leave his current agent and is reportedly going to sign with a new representative close to Jorge Mendes. Many top clubs want him. Benfica turned down a £45 million bid from West Ham on deadline day in January, closer to Jorge Mendes, which is going to be very important because as Arsenal showed in that last transfer window, they don't want to negotiate anymore with these top super agents. Are they willing to put the morals to one side in terms of negotiations and actually negotiate with Darwin Nunez and his brand new agent in Jorge Mendes? But on top of that, Fabrizio Romano has also confirmed that Darwin Nunez will leave Benfica in the summer. The fee will be around €80 million. His new agent will now meet with many top clubs to explore opportunities. Man United have already discussed his name internally. Arsenal wanted him last January as well as West Ham, but Darwin was not for sale. So Fabrizio is confirming of Arsenal's interest, but more importantly also confirms that Darwin Nunez is set to leave in the summer for the price tag of £67 million. Now I understand that is a massive price tag, but for a player that's still only 22 years of age, with the current stats that this guy's putting out there, with the way that Benfica operates, I can totally understand why these guys have slapped this massive price tag, because they know that clubs will pay it. And that form has continued, as in Darwin Nunez' last game, he scored a hat-trick. And that means in terms of his overall stats in all competitions for Benfica this season, 36 games played, 31 goals scored, 3 assists and directly being involved in a goal every 70 minutes. If you're an Arsenal fan that wants a goal scoring scoring type of number 9, Darwin Nunez is your guy. But for Arsenal now, we do have a bit of a logistical issue. With the clubs that want Darwin Nunez, you've got Chelsea, you've got Man United, you've got Liverpool reportedly. If Arsenal want to sign Darwin Nunez, I think we can technically afford it and pay the wages for it as well. But more importantly, can Arsenal now attract Darwin if they don't get Champions League footy? But what do you guys make of the Uruguayan centre forward, and for the price tag of £67 million, do you think Arsenal can still attract him if they want to get Champions League footy? But talking about strikers, what about Brentford's Ivan Toney? Well, after scoring and assisting against West Ham, Toney now has 19 goal contributions in 31 appearances this season for Brentford, 6 of those being from pens. I know that fans are going to say Babs, he scores a lot of penalties, but it's actually worth pointing out that out of those 6 penalties, he's actually won 4 of them. Now, is he the level of a goal scorer of a Darwin Nunez? No, I don't think so. But if you want a Premier League proven player that wouldn't need time to adapt, that is in the peak of his powers at 26 years of age, while Darwin excels in the goal scoring category, he isn't the best when it comes to hold up play and can be pretty erratic, whereas in terms of Ivan Toney, he excels in that category. And in that game against West Ham, he once again displayed that, dropping down deep, playing passes in behind. The only other strikers that you can see do that in the Premier League, it's only really Harry Kane for Spurs. But Arsenal wanting that brand new striker in the summer transfer window, should they go out there and sign Brentford's Ivan Toney? And on to the final bit of transfer news. According to Foot Mercato, Arsenal have met with Eden Hazard's representatives this week and wants a loan deal with an option to buy. He left Chelsea back in 2019, signed for Real Madrid for £100 million, but since then he has been one of the biggest flops in football, especially for that sort of price tag and the hype that he came with. He's now aged as a player at 31, and during his time at the Bernabeu has had a lot of consistent injury woes as well. So for an Arsenal project that is built around all of the youth, what sense does it make for Arsenal to go out there and sign a 31-year-old has-been player that isn't the player that used to be, that is injury prone and would still demand massive wages at the same time? But the player is most definitely going to be available, so what do you guys make of ex-Chelsea superstar in Eden Hazard? And if he was to be available on a loan transfer with an option to buy, should we bring him to the Emirates Stadium? Let's move on to the other Arsenal news today. And starting off with an Arsenal right back excelling down there in the lower leagues in League 1. He's an 18-year-old, he's been on fire for Lincoln City, and his name is Brook Norton Cuffy. As the Athletic claim, the Arsenal have offered Brook Norton Cuffy a new contract, which the 18-year-old fullback is expected to accept. With a consistent absence of Takehiro Tomiyasu, going into the future now, Brook Norton Cuffy, despite him being still so young, becomes a very interesting proposition for Arsenal Football Club. I see a lot of positive signs in the youngster, and quite clearly Arsenal echo that as well, hence why they're offering him a brand new contract. And I'll just say keep an eye on Mr. Norton Cuffy, and going into the start of pre-season, don't be surprised if Mikel Arteta gives the youngster a chance. But talking about Arsenal fullbacks and Mikel Arteta, speaking on Nuno Tavares, he says, "Obviously I spoke with Nuno because I care a lot how the players feel. We are there to make their careers better. That was a decision that hurt him obviously, but he understands that it was for the benefit of the team. He now needs to react on that situation." These were actually quotes before the Brighton game, so the fact that Mikel Arteta said that and still kept Tavares on the bench, playing Granit Xhaka at left back instead. Looking at the way that unfolded, I think going into the future, despite the obvious flaws and the concerns and the potential risk in Tavares, I still believe Arsenal are far better off playing Tavares as an actual left back and moving Xhaka back into the central midfield. But with the massive games that Arsenal have upcoming, we're going to have to see a lot of character from young Nuno Tavares. And I say that because in his last 2 starts for Arsenal against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup and Crystal Palace in the Premier League, he's been hooked off before half time in both of those games. So can we really expect then a player that is so out of confidence and clearly not trustworthy in terms of the manager to come straight into the Arsenal team and excel straight away, with the next game being away from home against Southampton? If it came down to you, would you start young Nuno Tavares? And to round up on the fullbacks, you also had Takehiro Tomiyasu, who was spotted in Arsenal's game against Brighton at the Emirates Stadium. When I saw Tomiyasu on the TV screen, I almost had to rub my eyes going, is that actually Tomiyasu? Is he still exist? But as Arsenal, but more importantly, but all jokes aside, but joking aside now for Arsenal, his return is going to be massive. The reports claim that he's set to return to full training after the Southampton game, and with the games being Chelsea away, United at home and West Ham away, with Toney and Partey already out, the sooner that Takehiro Tomiyasu returns to the Arsenal team, the more chances that Arsenal will have of actually winning those games and somehow salvaging the race for the Champions League. But that is the video there and there. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed as always, and if you have, make sure to go down there, smash a like, and also do subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you would like to follow your boy on them social medias, and more importantly my brand new second second channel, the links will be down below in the description. But that was all of the latest Arsenal news today, and I understand that it's been a painful week for us Arsenal fans, and a lot of hope has disappeared. With 8 games still to play for and so many points still there, what I will say is, despite the worries, the race is still far from run, and twists and turns hopefully will come. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves, and in a bit.